you have to educate those clients. One of the biggest complaints we get from consumer on the demand side, the agent not responding. We need to fix the trust in the marketplace. Use the data for a business purpose. Don't go AI because AI is the hype. I mean, think of what data can bring you in the business and make sure that it delivers value.
Hello, Christophe. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. Can you start by telling us more about your background and how you ended up working as a Chief Product Officer?
So it's a long story. I start from my education. I graduated from a business school. And after that, I went immediately into tech. Now, that was in the previous century. I work, I know it sounds like a dinosaur, but then I started in digital the year Google was launched.
Yeah.
Mainly from into web agency. So I collect a lot of business case or innovative use case at the time to go into the internet. And I did that for a couple of years. And then when the internet bubble crashed in 2002, I went with that luggage. So knowing how to build things on the internet to business transformation, digital transformation. And the product practice was not known at that time. So I really use more my commercial brain to say, okay, this is what we can do online. This is what we need to transform in the organization. I did that at Wolters Kluwer, which is 20,000 people, a big B2B publisher. The business model was mainly print.
Okay.
So huge transformation. And then I end up in 2009 in the marketplace world. Mainly in HR tech, Stepstone, small company that we grew in Europe. And that's where I became head of product, VP product, chief product officer. But again, the product practice was inexistent. So the thing of 2009, there was no iPhone.
Yeah,
so
that's good to say.
As a product guy, you need to bring, again, even though it's an online player, bring that model on a phone. Then came the big data wave. So from 2015, the cost of processing data dropped a lot. So you could do actually much more with that. So how do you embrace those kind of innovation? And that's how I navigate a business from a product-centric business through evolution. So it's a bit by accident. I'm not the literature guy with a lot of, I would say, product practice. I learned that the hard way when they say, okay, the iPhone is coming, or what do we do? So that's how I end up in marketplace and in product mainly.
And so you worked in Europe in HR tech, and then how did you end up in Dubai?
So it's a good question. I'm still asking myself the question. Why? No. So I've done 12 years of HR tech.
Okay.
So growing a business from roughly 70 million euro to 700 million euro with a very decent EBITDA margin. And partly organically, so oiling the product, oiling the sales engine, oiling the business model on the core market, but also by acquisition. And that was done by a joint venture through a PA, General Atlantic, which when that journey stopped at Stepstone, I called them and they did invest in PropTechFinder in Dubai. So for me, it was a natural bridge to stay in marketplace. It's not job, it's real estate. But the company profile was great, willing to invest and in need of product transformation.
Can you tell us, before we deep dive into what it is exactly that you are doing in marketplaces or even in real estate especially, can you explain to us what a chief product officer is? Because we talk a lot, obviously, about chief data officers and numerous roles in the data world, but why do we recruit a CPO?
So usually when you think of product, you think of feature. And you have a nice search feature, you have a nice business model. Those are feature. The CPO is mainly is chief product officer sitting in the executive leadership team. So I'm more at the company roadmap. So what do we need to be number one? And how do we grow the business? So those are like big directions. So I would say it's a 3 to 5 years horizon of building a product-led sales organization or a product that actually embrace the mass and serve a handful of B2B clients. Now, the difference with a VP product or head of product is that at one point in time, you need to transfer that strategy view into more of a feature roadmap. So for instance, if we say the business model needs to deploy in all the region, what are the localization elements you need to take into account in UAE versus Saudi, for instance? And those become more technicality, which is more handled by the head of or the VP product.
Okay. And so in the organization you've worked in, there was as well other very senior data roles or roles that were linked, like you usually have a CPO with a CDO, or you hire a CPO first. The reason why I'm asking is that you're one of a very few CPOs in the region. There are not much CDOs, but I was wondering if, at what point in an organization do people need a CPO more than a CDO or with a CDO?
I guess the way I work is more on what's the business outcome.
Okay.
So for me, it doesn't matter if it's a usability feature, if it's a functional feature, or if it's a data feature. At the end of the day, the roadmap needs to deliver value. Now, the organization that have the luxury to hire CDO, it's mainly to evangelize the data practice. So it could be big organization that needs to organize their data lake, that need to cleanse the data, that need to set up some kind of AI. A chief AI officer make no sense to me in the size of organization. For me, it needs to be embraced. The data culture needs to be embraced to the entire organization, and then it floats. If you need expert in data, then you can hire that. But having in the management team someone in charge of evangelization of data and activation of data, I guess in this region, it's a bit overkill for the size of the organization. So I did work with VP data because it's an important function. I can explain you later how I did that at PropTiFinder. But I was usually the one triggering a move to data. So in 2015, for instance, when the big data was the big trend, it was mainly about recommendation engine. So how can I recommend something for the consumer? And for that, I came to the conclusion that I had no practice, I had no expertise. So I actually acquired a company a startup, early stage startup that did that. So I brought data scientists in the team. We trained them on their own business model, and then they came with a recommendation engine. So I could capture the know-how without having to research it myself. That's a bit how it's organized. So at one point in time, I needed a VP data and AI.
Okay.
This only job is to do product through data.
Yeah, it depends a lot on the maturity, the size of the organization.
True. Yeah.
Okay. If we start by, I would like to deep dive a bit into the marketplace model in general. So you had a lot of experience. You're like the marketplace expert. What makes it successful? Let's always keep this product or in data angle. What makes the marketplace successful? Because we have marketplaces for so many things.
Yeah. So let's define marketplace. So for me, it's I work in classified.
Yes.
So it's a marketing model. Now, while it's a marketplace, is also where supply meets demand. So you have millions of consumers that wants to buy to a handful of B2B clients. Okay, so the success of a marketplace is when demand meets supply. Now, in jobs, for instance, it's super complicated. It's not something you buy.
Yeah.
You just apply to a job. Property is the same. At PropertyFinder, you don't buy the property online. You still need to contact the agent. And we are just this matching platform. It's like a dating site.
Yeah.
I need to understand the quality of the demand. So who are you to apply for this job, or who are you qualified to buy this property? And then the success is mainly the quality of the lead. So how easy it is to convert to a transaction. And the transaction could be I'm hiring this guy, or I have someone that can buy this property. So the magic is actually to ensure that I understand your search pattern, what are you looking for, and then making sure that when you as a consumer trigger the action to contact the agent or to contact the recruiter. The recruiter says, "Oh, this is the right profile for that type of inventory."
Because at PropertyFinder, for example, what was your definition of success? I believe you were checking like the number of leads
Yeah.
arriving on the website, but then what was the success? People that were contacting agents through the website, or what is the
So
sort of conversion?
there are different layers. I mean, ultimately, it's revenue. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's
No, of course.
But then we look at our market share.
Yeah.
So we do a survey, a B2B survey, to say, okay, what's the volume of transaction you are able to do through PropertyFinder? So we can position ourselves, and that's our value added in their business. So
Okay.
we try to build partnership, win-win situation where they got leads because we still count leads. We make sure that those leads are qualified. So that the lead are really an intent to
they showed an interest
transact. That the property is right for them. That there is a bunch of criteria that you factor from the digital marketing already. So capturing the right audience, making them discovering the inventory, connecting to the right agent, and then the agent has I would say a pre-qualified lead. So we count all that. Now the thing is, in the world of data, it's getting more and more interesting to qualified lead. So how to say that? You take a lead. It's coming from a outdoor advertisement.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily qualified. You just want to check your website, checked. Maybe he's contacting someone because he wants to make sure that the price is right. If you go very deep in the SEO, for instance, a very long tail of SEO where I know exactly what type of property you're looking for, in which area, the number of bedroom. And if I see the pattern that you have on the website, I can start collecting pattern data as well. And if I combine all of that, I can make you better recommendation.
Yeah.
I can start building a profile for you. And then more and more, you don't need to type all your criteria. I know who you are, and I can direct you to certain property. The thing is, because all those qualification makes the leads better. That's the trick. So you cannot do that on a very large site that sell everything from cars, property to whatsoever. Although there is a network effect for the volume of lead. So I'm specialized in destination sites. So Stepstone is a destination site for jobs. PropTech was a destination site for property. And the job was actually to pre-qualify it and nurture the lead to make sure that they could transact.
Okay. But so then don't you have a challenge to, like, I understand all the lead parts, you qualify, I mean, you check the level of qualification, you score them basically, or you, and then they are redirected to agents so they can contact them offline or through the website. Isn't it a challenge to understand, you said you are doing partnerships to get the data, like how many transactions did they do thanks to PropertyFinders, but there is no, it's not automated, or like you have to trust them, like it's based on partnership. So isn't it a challenge?
In Dubai, it's regulated. So for instance, you as an agent, you need to have a permit to publish. No, you first need to have it's called Form A. So it's an agreement between the landlord and the agency.
Okay.
About the property, the price, or whatsoever. It's submitted to the regulator, DLD in this case. Then you have a Form F, which tells you, okay, now you can publish the ad. And then when you sign an MOU, you also need to submit that to DLD, which then means that I get the answer, that I get the signal that that property is not on the market anymore. The thing is, how do I know that this property sold by that agent is not published by another agency? So we've put a lot of intelligence in the deduplication algorithm because there is no exclusivity in this market. So everybody could actually publish a property. It's capped to a certain level for some property. So the job was actually to make sure that if a property has been sold, then remove not just that listing, but the 3 listings that is advertising that property. And that's where data comes into play. That we need some trigger, because it's not the transaction which got signaled to PropTifinder, it's the MOU. So it's the intent to buy.
Yeah.
You can always bypass that somehow. So it's a bit a tricky situation. But I guess we wanted to encourage good behavior on the platform.
Yeah.
Okay. So the good practice that don't once the property is sold, remove it from the website, then you can get lead for the other property. So that's an education track. There is also education around the consumer service. So a marketplace, we get the revenue from the agencies, the real estate agencies. Now they employ broker, they employ agent. One of the biggest complaints we get from consumer, so on the demand side, is that agent not responding.
Yeah.
So how do you make that happen in a marketplace? I'm paid by the agencies, and I'm telling the agencies, you lose money because the agent do not answer so many leads. And when you came to numbers, then you realize that the CEO of the agency doesn't necessarily know that he's leaving 20-30% on the table. And second, then we start positive incentive. So through the data, I know the quality pattern of that agent. I can track all the lead. I can track a lot of interaction, so I can start scoring that interaction. And then we build that historically. We score the agent, and then we give a badge. This is in the region, it's called super agent.
Okay. But
it helps me through data, and it's undisputable. I can show that to the CEO. I can show that to the agent. They both understand that, okay, this is how it works. The quality of the listing is not there. The response time is not there. Your response rate is super low. So it gives the agencies a tool to educate and train their agent. It gives an incentive for the agent to get the badge, because then they have higher visibility and more lead. So there is always a mechanism to incentivize the marketplace. But to avoid dispute, it must be based on data.
Yeah, of course.
Because data doesn't lie.
So it's completely objective. So as part of your mandate, when you arrive in this type of role, it can be at PropertyFinder or even in your role before, where does your role start? Because we already covered like type of use cases at the beginning of the value chain, at the end, like everywhere in the consumer journey. So when you arrive, how do you start?
It's a good question. Usually, I'm coming back to your CPO question. The CPO is managing a portfolio.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, I have a mass product for consumer. So, millions of users on the website looking for property, millions of job seekers looking for jobs. Okay, so it's really a product for the mass. And I have a more B2B SaaS to manage the lead, to manage the contract, and that's where the revenue is. So there is already in the portfolio 2 main products. Then you start dividing into, say, functional area. It could be engagement. You have different elements. You have the way you organize it make a bit no sense. Make no sense. It makes sense because then you can start in defining investment profile. I want to spend so many resources in traffic acquisition, in lead conversion. I want to spend so many resources in contract management in the B2B side, or in reporting, whatever. The point is more like the way I'm starting is like, okay, what's critical in the marketplace?
Yeah.
And it's a chicken and egg. No traffic. No client. Okay. So it's a catch-22 situation. So what I usually do, I'm starting from the consumer.
Okay.
Because that's what we sell to clients. And then I'm trying to understand what are the critical pain points. So I'm not at the feature level. This feature doesn't work, or that we can remove. I'm really after, I have millions of people on my website every day. What do they experience? And it's super simple. And it's not just a problem for your own website. It's usually industry problem. Agent not responding.
Yeah, of course.
It's the agencies, you know. The quality of the inventory is questioned, or the property is not available. Those were the three main areas. And then in the B2C to B model, I cannot fix the agent not responding without talking to agent. So it's a B2C impact, but then inform the B2B roadmap. And that's all. So I start building a strategic plan. We need to fix the trust in the marketplace. And trust means availability of the listing. Every listing needs to be accessible for viewing, or the price. There is too much scam on the website. So what can I build to fix that? I'm at the what level. How they do that? It's then the VP product.
Okay. So then how is the team usually structured? Without giving any secret or organization, but like what profiles do you get and how do you organize the teams? Because you work on like identifying the different products, and as you were saying, then you said you give it to the VP product. Can you explain a bit to us the process when it comes to people?
I'm not alone. I have a product leadership team, which then reflect the investment profile. An investment profile is the resource I'm committed to provide to fix a certain problem. So usually it's 60% for B2C, 40% for B2B. And then it can change, but I'm not working on a project base. I'm working with investment profile. The reason is that the problem are complex, and it's not like a roadmap for a SaaS product where you know exactly which feature you need to add. If you want to tackle trust, it's a long-term bet. There is no real immediate measurement that you can measure through A/B testing that says, okay, now that's done, trust is earned. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Now, it's a bit of an art to balance that properly. But as a leadership team, I can then come as the executive leadership team. I can tell my colleagues from sales, from marketing, from finance, from the CEO, look, we're going to invest so much resource in those kind of problems. And then the VP product is taking that, is building that with me. So it's not a surprise. But then he's actionizing the solution. And that's where the product magic comes into play. You do discovery, you do design sprints, whatsoever. So there are techniques to come to certain hypotheses that say, okay, if you want to fix that, you need to test A, B, C, D. And then you know that you have that amount of resource. And that's how it works. So I'm not telling the team, say, look, to fix trust, you need to do A, B, or C. That the team comes with those solutions. They need to own the solution. They need to be accountable for the solution. I just making sure that, in a nutshell, the strategy, the company goes in the right direction. And if they don't, then I have some kind of framework that says, guys, you deviate from the strategic roadmap, or your solution is not good enough. That's how it works.
And to know if the solution is good enough, you do a lot, you were saying, of A/B testing. So you have proper KPIs, like you track all along the product journey from, let's say, the point, the POC to like the fully automated product. You track these KPIs and you have,
So yes.
On paper?
On paper, yes, for sure. There is... at Stepstone, I had a team of 40 data scientists or product analysts that just look at that. So it was massive. Everything was tracked, but to the point that it was too much.
It's too much, yeah.
Here in the region, we had to build that knowledge. The data were distributed to different systems. Huge total cost of ownership of the data, because they aggregate multiple sources into one database, which was not easily accessible for the product people. So in theory, a product guy should take product or data-driven decision. Now, A/B testing is a snapshot of an action on a button. It's not a journey. So fixing trust, for instance, I can check NPS. I can check NPS every 3 months, 6 months. I cannot check NPS each time there is a feature released.
No, not every day.
So and that's why you need to be to use a bit your gut and your you build your hypothesis. Say, okay, I want to try that. Sometimes you fail. There is no product adoption. 3 months after the release, you don't see any progress in your NPS. That's why you need to correct. But not everything is instantly tracked, unfortunately.
How are you integrated with the rest of the team, especially the let's say the IT team or the tech team and the business teams? Were you involving, let's say, the marketing team or the website team? I don't know how it was structured in the development of the product. You had your own
Yeah.
product
So
owners.
so let's start from the top,
Yeah.
the leadership team. You usually have a tech, product, finance,
Yeah.
marketing, sales, HR function. Now, each of them can have an impact on the website.
Yes,
And
that's
this
why.
notion of website is
No, of course.
it's an app whatsoever or on the application. Now, technically speaking, there are certain expertise required to do product. Now, what the way I view that, I'm working in partnership with a CTO.
Yeah.
So I'm technically telling, for the sake of the business, you should develop that. Okay, so I'm the interface to tech. How do I get the input? That's a bit case by case. So if
Okay.
it's very sales sensitive, then I will tap the expertise in sales. But it will always be translated by a product person, a product manager, to translate that properly for IT and to make sure that there are criteria that are met to send that back to sales. So I'm the interface from the business to tech. Now,
Okay.
I can't expect to hire someone which is an expert in whatever marketing engagement technique, So
No.
I need to rely on their field
Of course.
expertise, but I see that product function as a layer, and the layer, unfortunately, 90% of the job is to say no. This is not the right
Yes.
idea. Doesn't meet the hypothesis we want to
Yeah.
test. So there is always like more stakeholder management. We don't delegate necessarily the product function to someone that doesn't know tech or product. We try that. I
Yeah.
tried that in the past. And then you really rapidly end up in, oh, you know what? This feature is the killer. And then the week after, oh, I changed my mind. This is a better feature. So you need some
Yeah,
kind of
that's interesting.
consistency
Okay.
in the product world, because you know the end picture and you
Yeah.
know the steps to get there. You cannot change your mind every now
No.
and then.
No, and you know what it takes to build all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. And are there any no-brainer product or use cases in marketplaces in general? Like things that, like, when you come as a CPO and you start a new marketplace, let's say, there are products that you absolutely need to start with. Or it really depends on the industry. For example, for real estate, you were saying you had to work a lot on trust. That was for you like a priority, if I understand well. It may be different for other industries. Are there specific
But
products?
trust was triggered by a broken experience. So that was a priority.
Okay.
Now, I guess your question, the no-brainer is the matching. You need
Yeah,
to be
okay.
able to
Between
match
the
supply and
okay,
demand.
yeah, of course.
You need to have the inventory and you need to have
Yeah.
the right traffic. If you get that right, those are the core functions. Now, when I joined PropTiFinder, the matching and the ranking has not been touched for years.
Okay.
Okay, so now with data, with new way to measure the quality, you can rank differently. So you need to open that box from times to times. To give you an order of magnitude, at Stepstone, it's also matching with some certain specificity, like skills and how do you match skills with job description. But the matching team was 100 people.
Okay.
100 people.
You mean doing it manually or?
No, so I had some linguists, I had
Okay.
some data scientists, I had some engineer to code,
Okay.
I had quality insurance, and they really own the ranking algorithm.
Okay.
That was the magic recipe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, at PropTiFinder,
that's
it's a
the
different
whole,
team,
okay.
but the same logic apply.
Okay.
I have a ranking algorithm. That's our magic, not secret IP,
Yeah.
and you need to pamper that. So that's those are the core function you need to do for marketplace. And you take any e-commerce website, it's all
It's the
about
same. Yeah, of course.
search and recommendation.
Yeah. Okay. And can you tell us a bit about some products you're very proud of, or like you set up for PropertyFinder, and that really had a good impact?
Well, I would start with a consumer story. One of the issue in trust was the agent not responding, and this perception of fake listing. Now, to answer that, to answer to those problems, the launch of Super Agent was quite
Yeah.
a success for me. And it has been copied by the competition.
Yeah, of course. But that's
after
always
2
a good
years.
sign.
So
Always a good sign.
that's a very good sign. But think of, we got the revenue from the agencies, and I'm telling the agency that thank you for your money, but by the way, you don't do a good job.
Yeah, yeah.
And because of that, I'm gonna de-rank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of a tricky situation.
Yeah, of course.
So it's mainly, say, we had to build a lot of capability to track all the leads, to start analyzing the data, to process those data, to include the data into a marketing gimmick, the super agent badge, into the ranking algorithm. So there is a lot of data work there, but then it's the go-to-market that matters. How do I make client adopting that practice?
Yeah.
And honestly, we didn't want to punish client. We wanted to turn that into an incentive. So the tone of voice presenting that feature was super important. And now I see that super agent is part of the onboarding and the training of agencies. How do you get the badge?
Yeah.
Because it
that
resulted.
is really the incentive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was actually a cool success story, because then it's fully adopted by the B2B community. And as a consumer, you see a clear benefit. You don't know what super agent algorithm is, but you can trust this label.
Yeah.
Now, on the B2B side, there are we do have a business model which the pricing of a listing is based on multiple parameters, but mainly supply and demand, the commission, the potential commission earning, type of property whatsoever. So there is a lot of data points that are needed for our pricing, and that also requires some education. In the past, you buy one listing, that's one cost, you know it, you can budget it, great. Now, Dubai is quite advanced, so they immediately see the value. Okay, I'm selling an apartment at 3 million or 20 million, my commission is different, therefore my price is different. Makes sense. If you move that model to, I would say, less mature market, Egypt, KSA, or whatsoever, where we don't necessarily have a leading position, again, that's an issue. But the model as such is perfect to scale. So how do we move that model to the smaller country? Was also a very good challenge to have. And it's a massive product. If you look at it, again, it's our own IP, and I'm not disclosing anything because we are quite proud of that model. But we have millions. Not millions. We have thousands of price points for inventory.
Yeah.
And how you make the client understand those price points? How do you see the value they have by working with PropertyFinder? So that's more on the cosmetic side, the dashboarding, the reporting to client. But again, you have to educate those clients. So you need to bring them to a realization that by working at PropertyFinder, you have a guaranteed ROI. If you want to get more ROI, or if you want to be number one in certain community, this is how you can do that. So we really provide a set of tactics to CEOs, agency director whatsoever, to build their own success. And that's also quite massive and quite unique in the real estate marketplace, I know.
Talking a bit more about AI now, before a bit offline, we were talking about the fact that in real estate, and that was my consumer point of view, still a lot of things were being managed on paper. So, for example, the lead generation in malls here in Dubai, or even the contract sign, etc. A lot of things are being digitized, but
checks.
Yeah, it's quite checks exactly. Yeah, it's still quite slow. I mean, it's not for me, not the industry that I would consider as the more digitized or advanced. But there are a lot of things happening in the PropTech industry.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about just your point of view on this industry? How is it evolving? Where do you see the future?
I can guarantee you that the HR tech is slower than real estate.
Oh wow, okay.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah, I see different challenges, but yeah, okay.
No,
so you're in slow industries.
I'm actually in industry which have a very solid model.
Yes.
And they have this resistance to change.
Yeah.
Because of multiple factors. In real estate, you obviously deal with a lot of money, and there is some kind of transaction happening so that you move a property from one to another.
Yeah.
Now, the point is, if you look at the PropTech seen here in the region, they are indeed close to the transaction. You see buy now, pay later model, where you can actually not pay by check anymore, but subscribe to a loan and then automatically the landlord receives the money. You have fractional ownership that is coming in, which requires obviously a new regulation, a new set of rules to say, okay, who can own a property. So there is a lot of legacy, which is slow to change, slow to adopt. In Dubai, they are quite fast.
Yes.
So there is a scene of PropTech player, but mainly in the transaction area.
Okay.
How do I facilitate the transaction?
Yeah.
How do I facilitate the work of an agent? How do I make sure that I have an agent-to-agent platform? I mean, I'm coaching some of those startups, and it's fascinating that they are so close of the transaction. If you take the PropTech terms in Europe, it's completely different. Here, it's more about managing the real estate park. So it's all about smart building. It's all about smart city. It's mainly, it's not about the transaction anymore. The volume of transaction is lower in Europe.
Yeah.
There is already a lot of units available. And so the discussion in Europe is different. Now, if in the region, it's still a booming sector.
Yes.
They still have plan to grow the city, and they have super nice vision. They have super ambition plan, and they build it, and I'm sure it will be sold. I'm sure people will come. So the goal here in the region is really to facilitate that.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's still a lot of paper, but a lot of industry are on paper.
Yeah, because you have a lot of legal, but you have as well a lot of sentiment. It's the same as looking for a job. When you buy a house, you want to visit it in person. I think it's quite, I see a lot of startups, not here actually, but in Europe, trying to replace a bit this, because it takes time for an agent to bring you to the apartment, make you visit it, etc. They try to replace this, but they struggle because people usually come and do the visit online, or they have plans, but then they still want to see it.
Yeah, true.
So
those features exist on the website. You can have a video tour.
Visit and
you have a virtual visit where the agent is in the property, but then you have viewer online.
Okay.
Yeah, but
it's a lot of mindset to change. It takes a lot of time. Or
True.
maybe it's not good to change it, by the way. I don't know. We will not replace all human interactions by AI. But,
no, then I mean,
no.
I know it's
yeah, but I hope we won't.
It's a social club that matters. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it depends. If you are an investor and you buy on plan, you don't have to visit.
Yeah, you don't mind.
Okay? But you don't mind.
You can't anyway.
If you
want to buy your house,
if it's your own money for your own house, where you want to live, grow the family, there is more effect to visit the property for sure.
Yeah. So then you see more the future of PropTech in like smart cities, and because in Dubai I see, for example, in like I used to work for a free zone, and they had they were really trying to develop a lot of AI products internally for maintenance, being just more attractive for the residents, etc. For either a business or a personal usage, thanks to this new technology. Is this something that you see booming here, or that you think that is a good thing happening? Or
booming? No,
maybe
I think
the word is a bit too big.
Future-wise, they need to build the cities, and then they're gonna move their focus on the energy, the carbon footprint.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's not necessarily actively on the agenda. I think what they are. If you go to, I visit New Cairo in Egypt. It's massive. It's incredible. You are 50 kilometers away from Cairo, and they are building a new city. And then they move government bodies, then they move headquarters, and they move people in that city. And it's a massive project. Okay, they are at that stage. The minute you're gonna have the double of the population, then they will start maybe looking at energy saving, carbon footprint, mobility, whatsoever. But we are not there.
No.
It's just a maturity curve. Now, what I clearly see is the model where AI can help, and I use AI for explaining real estate to the mass, to the consumer. Okay. Why is this apartment so expensive? Or can I classify it? I mean, you have 2 kids. at maybe primary level, you need to live close to a park, to a school, whatsoever. Or can I build then something which you, as not knowing the city, comes in, say, I want a family-friendly area, green area, and 5 kilometers max from, or 10 minutes max from a school. Okay, and that's what. Is it AI? Is it machine learning? Is it data collection? Doesn't matter. I mean, but we can now aggregate all the data, add some proprietary data like amenities, picture or whatsoever of amenities of park or school, and maintain that so that we can then cluster the inventory and say, okay, this is family friendly, this is more luxury, this is nightlife, and we can create additional trigger to search for a property in those kind of communities. So that's the point of Data Guru, plus pricing, affordability map, pricing trends and everything. So that explain why you pay so much or so little in that area. So that's also triggered by AI. The future is mainly, for me, in the PropTech area, transaction is easy somehow. There is 20,000, 30,000 agencies here in Dubai. They will need to be more digitized. I mean, 100%.
It's a no-brainer. They'll go there.
It's a no-brainer.
And a lot of technologies exist today, even in Europe.
Do they want to invest now? Do they want to invest later? Do they want to invest when the market is up?
Yeah, I mean, it's coming. It's there.
It will come for sure. The next challenge would then be to make the region more sustainable. You know, and I see a lot of interesting model where you can you need data. It's all start with the data. You already have some data available in the building. I mean, if you look at a tower, it's called a building management system, which is rule based at the moment. Light needs to be switched off by that hours. Okay, temperature in the room so much, and you don't really inject any prediction into that. So, or external factor. Oh, there is some rain, or there is some sandstorm. The temperature will change. That doesn't exist. So you're gonna need to equip the building with a lot of sensors. But then those sensors could actually tell you how to operate your building itself for energy saving, or to do predictive maintenance to avoid your air conditioning to stop when it's 40 degrees.
Yeah,
you know,
and you're not at home.
Yeah, typical in Dubai. But that has a massive cost for the
it's
operator.
It's a big technology investment. I mean,
that's I don't know. I really don't know. I think what do you need to predict the maintenance of a machine? You know, I'm not sure it's big. I mean, what is big is indeed to have. You have some hardware.
Yes.
A sensor in a basement without bandwidth. It's an issue to collect the data. So but that's technology, and there are techniques for that. You have your middleware that collects all the data. Then you need to process the data, and you can do that in a much more clever way than just by guessing that if the shop stops at 10 p.m. I can assume that the light will go off at 11 p.m. You know, so there are way more use cases there in using AI or predictive model than what's happening at the moment. And think of Dubai. You have a lot of commercial building that you don't even know. I mean, there is a DP World. There are free zone, Jebel Ali free zone with a lot of warehouse. Warehouse at 40 degrees in the sun, it needs something. You know, it's a huge energy cost that the landlord needs to support. You have hospital, a lot of hospitality. You have office space is getting a big topic. Malls. So there is a lot of big building that requires maintenance. I'm not talking about your individual home that can be optimized, and you have a lot of domotic doing it already. But the market of commercial real estates where they have huge energy bill, that can be optimized, that's for sure.
That's huge. And I don't know if you look at other countries in the region as well, but I guess this is something already, for example, in Saudi, people invest a lot into. Or is this a no-brainer there? It's too early.
No, well, smart cities comes also with a lot of automation.
Yes.
Take RTA, for instance, the bridge. I mean, cool. You're from France, you know the queue at on the highway just to pay your your 2 or 3 euros. Here it's automatic.
It's amazing.
So it's amazing. So they do a lot of automation on the city. Next will be
it's the first step.
Yeah. So that is already unbelievably advanced in my opinion. Next will be COP28, carbon footprint, energy savings, which
that's
is
the next topic, and that's good.
that will be the next topic for sure.
And just for to close, because we didn't cover this question, and it was interesting for me, for marketplaces in general, so not the industry of real estate, but marketplaces. In this case, AI will mostly come, I guess, to replace where like the gaps that you were mentioning, for example, for I mean, would it be for the visits, as we were saying, like to try to like digitize and make it smarter, or is it more for data guru, as you were explaining, like trying to identify the places where
I guess
to live?
the big data guru is a way to reassure you that the price is fair, that community is right for you.
Okay.
No, it's still reactive. You need to tell me that you have 2 kids and that it's you're looking for
an amazing
that kind of lifestyle. Now, the future of marketplace for me is to go from a search platform to an engagement platform. Do I need to? In an ideal world, it's searchless.
Yeah.
You tell me what what you're after. What are your hobbies? And I can actually recommend you property. Now, there is always this this myth, but of the machine will tell you where to live. No, that you need to demystify the myth. But technically speaking, it's the search engine didn't evolve. It's still a location, a price, a unit type, bedrooms, and that's it. You know, but technically, all the soft criteria, which are not necessarily mentioned neither in the inventory nor by the consumer. Do you like running? Do you want to be close to? Do you want to be close to a running track? Okay, how do I get that in the listing?
And how do you ask the right question without sending like 100 questions to a customer?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we did some experiment with more kind of ChatGPT type of stuff, because in DataGuru I've collected a lot of information, like there is a running track or not. Okay. You know, the question is more like, how do I match the inventory with that, and how do I match your consumer experience with that? And we are close to we are not close to find the right solution there. So that will be, for me, a marketplace that evolves to a world where it's more engaging with the consumer has a lot of benefit, because the leads are pre-qualified, are more qualified, are more ready to transact because they know exactly the where they land.
But there is still a sensitive question on what you can ask to the client and what you can suggest. So it's less the case in Dubai, but I think it will. For example, in Dubai, in this country, there are so many nationalities and people live a lot in communities. But can you use this data, or is it very sensitive? For example,
that's an interesting debate. I mean, that's more about the ethic of
exactly.
AI.
It's ethical,
So for me, when you sit on a pile of data, you need to be mindful of the impact of those data. I'll give you an example from Stepstone. I've built a salary prediction model. So we collect a lot of data. We had also a partner telling me that. And we wanted to make to profile a job seeker and tell you, with your experience, that's the type of salary you can expect. We deliberately took the choice not to include gender in that algorithm. We didn't want to inflate the gender gap. That's a choice. The data were available. I could have told you 2 different salary
if you're male or female, because the data is.
So for me, when you deal with those kind of algorithms, you need to be aware of the societal impact. And indeed, for me, the challenge is not necessarily about nationalities. I mean, You're French,
Yeah,
so
I
you know that
picked-
all the French are in Jumeirah.
But that's
you
why
know,
I was
that you
asking.
know.
No,
But the
yeah.
point is more like, how do I include the unknown in my algorithm?
Yeah.
I give you an example. The image, you have 10, 15 image per listing. We start digging into those images to identify attributes that are not necessarily in our system, because taxonomy is hard to maintain. But it's super interesting to see that in that tower, I have a sea view or I have a garage view. You know, I can take that picture of a balcony and then say, oh, wait a minute, the background is sea view. And I can try to identify it with the address if it's possible and add that as an attribute of the listing.
Okay.
And that's where it becomes more interesting for me. Say, okay, you want to have some kind of a green area, or you want to have some kind of big view. Okay, sea view might be for you.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do that today with our static taxonomy, with the way agents are describing properties. And there are so many use cases like that where you can actually enrich the searchability of a unit based on preference, behavioral pattern.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that the portal will go, to more and more know the demand, qualify the demand in different ways.
If you could just, to finish, like leave the audience with one key takeaway or something we haven't discussed that you would like to share, what would it be?
Use the data for a business purpose. So don't go AI because AI is the hype. I mean, think of what data can bring you in the business and make sure that it delivers value, even if it's little value. Don't start following hypes if that hypes cannot be translated into business benefits.
Okay, so focus on value.
Focus on value,
Not
focus
on,
on IP creation,
Yeah,
rather than do AI for the sake of
for
AI.
the sake of it, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Christophe, for
Welcome.
all these insights. It was very interesting.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
It was,
thank you very much.
Fun experience. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.